That's okay. Dan Simpson, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
And thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks.
The new head coach for our men's and women's track and field team. Boy, you want to talk about a sport that doesn't have an off season. You are the definition of it.
Right.
Give us an idea how challenging it is to step into a role coaching a team that it feels like you're constantly training and trying to figure out how to peak at certain times of the year.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, luckily, Coach Eby, our director, my friend, has been here for, I think he's going on year number 8. So we have that stability. And Coach Hill, who is my position before for me, has us set up really well. You know, we've got some talent and some leadership, and so that always helps. But yeah, you come in and it's, you know, right when I started, it's time for camp week for cross country, and soon it'll be indoor and outdoor, and the year flies by when you do what we do.
You're an OAC guy. You went to Heidelberg. You've spent some time coaching in the conference. Before we talk about just Division III in general, how about the OAC? What is special about this conference and the fact that you've decided to make a couple of stops in the OAC professionally?
Yeah, the OAC is always so competitive, and I think there's only one OAC head coach that I don't know pretty personally right now. 9 out of 10, I'm trying to think of. It's just a really close-knit group, and we all want to beat each other, I think. And so we've known each other for a long time. And I left Ohio for 10 years, just came back, and the OAC's never been better. Truly. People say that, but it's never been better. It's so deep, and I'm excited to help BW compete against some of these schools that have really taken off in the last 10 years. You
come to BW directly here from the West Coast. What did your time in California teach you?
Yeah, it just taught me how to be resourceful, and you know, for the last couple gigs I've had, it's been me as a full-time coach and a couple part-time assistants. So here, I feel like it's such a luxury to have, you know, to be one of 3 full-time, and then we have so many others on board. You know, Todd Swisher, who's been here for decades and is just a mastermind with the jumps, and Aaron Casper, and the list goes on and on. We have such a great staff, and I think that is it's been huge. But I think out in California and even in previous stops before that, it's just being resourceful and learning how to be the recruiting coordinator and be the coach and to kind of balance it all, you know. And I think that bodes well for coming here and maybe having more support. You know, I think it'll translate. So
you come from most recently, you come from the NAIA ranks. I almost said that backwards. And I guess I'm just curious about the distinction between whether it's the organization of meets, the quality of athlete. How would you differentiate, you know, the NAIA caliber competitor with where we are at Division III?
Yeah, so I've been coaching over 15 years. I was in the NAIA for 1 year, so it was a very, very abnormal stop for me, I guess. There's no debate. I mean, no disrespect to the NAIA, because I have a lot of friends who coach there, and I love my time there. NCAA Division III is just a whole different ballgame in terms of just the final time to get to nationals in every single event, basically across the board. So there's just a lot more schools in Division III as well. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's well over double the amount of schools. So just that by itself lends itself to, you know, there's going to be a lot more competition for getting to a national meet, right? You know, there's just more talent out there, more numbers. So. Yeah, and obviously recruiting's way different, and no athletic scholarships in Division III. So it's, but that's what I'm used to. I'm a product of that, and most of my coaching stops have been at NCAA Division III schools. So.
From your perspective, you know, you chose to come to BW. This was obviously an appealing place. What is the biggest draw as you go into the homes for recruits here?
Yeah, there's so many to name. I think the first thing is the people. Coach Eby is so great. It's great to collaborate with him, and that was number one for me. But the facilities, to have the beautiful indoor track and maybe the fastest outdoor track in Ohio at least, with Armando X surface, and just the campus is beautiful. You're close to culture. There's a lot of schools that have an indoor and outdoor track as beautiful as ours in the conference and around the nation, but they might be 3 hours away from a major city. So you combine all of that stuff with the fact that we have those internships and that culture for, you know, I enjoy in my personal life to go enjoy a show or whatever. It's just such a great, well-rounded college town, Ball Wallace.
I certainly don't personally need any convincing. I agree.
Yeah.
I love it. But no, it's a great note. As you look at what your goals are here, what you're trying to accomplish, you've obviously got two different sides you're helping oversee here on the men's and women's side. What are your goals as you take this opportunity on?
Again, I mean, so they've built such a great program here over the years. Dr. Tarasky is someone that I knew pretty personally. I spoke to him. He's obviously a legend that has passed recently here. But Coach Hill really built something great here as well. And so I just want to keep that momentum going. At the same time, we always want to get better. Mount Union, their head coach is a guy that I work for, and he coached me at Heidelberg. So, I'd like to beat him. So you just go down the list. There's all these people that you want to work hard, and you know that if you leave the office early and don't make those 5 more calls, then maybe they'll get picked up by somebody you want to beat. So it's one of those things.
How have you been able to assess the competitive mindset of the kids that you're overseeing? In the same way you just spoke, where it's like, no, hey, I've got to do 5 extra reps of whatever it is because the margins in winning in the OAC in particular are razor thin.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, to this point, the crew I'm going to oversee, sprints, hurdles, jumps, relays, we won't work with them until Halloween. Halloween Day is the first time I'll actually work with them. I've spoken with them, and I've witnessed them play sand volleyball on campus, so I've seen competitiveness that way. But I know in my individual meetings with them how much they want to succeed and how talented the group is. And yeah, I think it's just about, in our sport, first and foremost, making yourself better, making sure that you're setting personal best, and then you're going to worry about scoring at an elite level. But we have a couple student athletes, more than a couple. Obviously, Hope Murphy's goal is to win every time she steps on the track, and she basically does. Shadero Clark, who will be in my event group, is a former OAC champion, and he's a guy that's his goal every time he steps on the track. And Christian Pfeiffer was top 5 in the high jump last year, and he keeps saying that he's going to win the OAC high jump, and he wants that target on his back. So I don't think they need motivated. I love that. You want, as a coach, especially in our sport, to have a group that you have to hold back, not motivate to get out the door or put in the work when nobody's looking. And so I feel pretty lucky. I'm
curious about Christian and the idea of being a dual sport guy, playing basketball for a guy in Tom Heil, frankly, and his assistant coach, Brian Schmidt, guys that are ultra competitive and love athletes, not just basketball players. How do you work together with other coaches and saying, hey, this is what we need from this guy certain time of the year, and this is what we can sacrifice another time of year?
Yeah, so now Christian is full-time track and field, but, that kind of happened before I even got here. But when that collaboration does happen, and it will, if I'm here for 10 years, and I hope I am, then that's certainly something that's going to come up. It's just about being, making sure that when the other sport is happening, that you're stepping aside and communicating with that coach respectfully, and just a collaboration happens. And not stepping on people's toes and making sure that asking that coach, what do you think? How's this look? Is that too much for what you guys are doing, to coincide with what you guys are doing and whatnot? And I think it typically works out as long as you have the athlete's best interest.
How about from an alumni perspective? There's a lot of BW track alums that still live in Northeast Ohio. How have they embraced you, and how do you plan to use that alumni base?
They're everywhere. So I've been to a lot of meets already. 2 weekends ago, I went to 3 meets in a day on a Saturday all across the state. And it was a really intense day, but I think I ran into 9 Baldwin Wallace alums. I think I only knew 2 of them going into the day. So it's been I can't believe how many there are, and how prideful of the program they are, and how they want to throw talented student athletes our way. So we're definitely not going to say no to that, and going to embrace them. I think we have big plans in terms of we have an alumni meet in the indoor season that we're going to host, and I think that's things like that. We want to bring them back on campus, treat them like celebrities because they are to our program, and I'm excited to get to know more and more of these people that are, you're right, they're all around.
I think one of the critical components when you're trying to make decisions and where you want to spend time professionally, you're looking at your leadership, and so you're looking at Steve Thompson and the BW University administration. How are they going to support your program? How is your athletic director going to fight for you? What's your budget look like? Things like that. You obviously chose to come here, so you must have liked what you saw. Give us an idea of how you feel like this program is in a good place because the university supports it.
Yeah, the university does support ball walls. Again, I say arguably we probably do have the fastest surface in the state of Ohio with Armando X. That's one example of we will go above and beyond. That costs money to have a facility like that, and we just have it. In terms of like sending out mailers for envelopes for recruiting and all that, basically there is no tipping point. No, hey, when are we sending out too much kind of a thing. It's basically like, cast as big of a net as you need to cast, and just make sure you bring in a class with it. So the support's been unbelievable. There's no excuses on our end. This is by far, and again, I've been coaching about a decade and a half at the college level, and I don't know that I've ever had resources like this to go recruit. Our apparel that we have, we do fundraise. That's pretty normal though, but I mean, we just have the resources are abundant here, and the facilities are well taken care of. One note that I've told people over and over is when I got here, the day I arrived at BW, my name was already like on the office door. That sounds like a really small thing, but that's never happened to me that quickly. It's always like the third month you're there, they're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to put that up there and everything. And little things like that continue to happen here where I'm like, wow, this place is truly different.
Attention to detail matters, doesn't it?
For sure.
This is a random question, but what's your favorite time of year?
I would say fall. I'm a cross country guy,
okay.
And I'd say the fall, like sloshing through the leaves and everything. And I'll say I've missed it. Being in California, I've missed I can't wait to see what the Metro Parks look like here soon. I'm excited.
The fact that we are literally on the edge of the Metro Parks, and a lot of guys and women are training on Metro Parks runs all the time. I have to think that's part of the draw of wanting to come here. Is like, hey, it's not just training, running through a tough spot. You get beautiful scenery you're going to run through.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And even for our, throwers and jumpers who aren't probably going to go run a 5 kilometers out there in the Metro Parks, they can still walk it. They can still enjoy it. It's still a good way to decompress after 18 billion exams, in a week or whatever you have. So it's beautiful. It really is. And it's just one more note. And we'd be stupid not to show, student athletes that come by on recruit visits and stuff. And so we do. We make a point to go out there and show them Wallace Lake and, all the beauty that is right around us here.
Give us an idea what the schedule looks like right now in the cross-country season, and what you've accomplished through the first couple meets and what you're working toward.
Yeah, so I'm a little detached. The team would tell you this. I'm a little detached from cross-country. I will speak on it. They're a great team. My role kind of this fall is to hit the road while they're at meets. I'm not going. I'm recruiting aggressively for the sprint side, the hurdle side, the throw side, and for the distance side, to be honest with you. But so far, I mean, Hope Murphy, business as usual.
Sure.
It makes it sound easy, but I see what she does. It's not. She works her tail off. And then you've got a young team for the most part. And I made a note here just to make sure I didn't butcher this. So David Russo on the men's side is a grad student senior. And outside of he and Nick Descani on the men's team, there's through 3 meets the only 2 seniors who have scored for our men's team, and we have great leadership there. That just points to how the future set up here for this program. And on the women's side, Maddie Miller is the lone senior who has scored for the first 3 meets. So you've got young talent here, and a lot of people to build around. And it's exciting time.
When you're running in a meet like the Division III National Preview, which is coming up here in, I guess it'd be roughly a week and a half, what are the kinds of goals as a program that you guys are setting? Are they team-related? Are they all individual things? How do you go about that?
Definitely team-related, and I think Coach Eby, if you were here beside me, or he would say this is the time where it gets real, because it really does. So in our sport, nothing goes against the resume until this pre-national weekend. This is the first meet of the year that kind of counts on your resume. So when the committee, if you're trying to get an at-large bid to nationals, they will talk on your resume beginning with this meet coming up. So it matters. You're trying to Hope obviously as a low stick, as a low point total. Hopefully going out there on the women's side and doing that helps. So obviously to help our team, she has to run individually very well. But everybody has a role. And I think just, they have a really hard week of training this week, some key workouts. Then they're going to rest up and go attack next week and hopefully set a tone for the second half of the year. I think they consider the second half is about to begin.
Perhaps it's post-COVID and everybody wanting to be a little bit more involved. Perhaps it's just a rejuvenated sense of pride and purpose within the department and its student athletes, but it's pretty obvious over the last 15 to 18 months that there's a different feel, a different vibe right now around Yellow Jacket athletics as a whole. How have you felt that, and how have you been able to reciprocate that or seen your kids reciprocate that to the other teams?
Yeah, no, I love to hear that. Well, so obviously I'm new, so I wouldn't know how it's changed in the last 15 months, but I have been hit over the head with how just there is some kind of Yellow Jacket fever out there. People are very excited to be here and to support their other sports and everything. And I think you're probably right. I hadn't even thought about it. Coming out of COVID, it's probably one of the big reasons that's the case. People being robbed of seasons and everything. And I think maybe that's the reason, too, that the OAC in our sport has become, and the nation has become so, has had this like spike in talent, is because I think there's been extra eligibility saved up, and then you have talent coming in, so it just stockpiles the talent and ability. And I'm sure people during those times, what's a good way to socially distance? In our sport, you can get really fit. You can get really fit if you want to during that period of time. So, but no, I think you look around at the coaching staffs here and the goals for all teams here, and it's to win and to compete for OAC titles, and it's hard not to get excited and feel motivated by that.
Since we're still getting to know you, this is maybe a more broad question,
Yeah.
but the idea of being a coach through COVID, gosh, that's a challenging ask. You got a lot of things that you've got to figure out how to adjust. When you reflect on what you went through as a coach, going through an incredibly challenging time for student athletes' lives, how did it make you a better coach?
It made me a better coach. I'll say this. I think the older I get, the mental health side, and you've seen it in stories across the board, like in other sports as well. When I was out near Stanford at Menlo, there was a Stanford softball player. I think there's some young lady that had like a struggle. I think it's increased that side of things. Like when you're in a period where you can't do what gives you joy, you have to really focus on. You do have student athletes who are a little maybe upset with that fact and everything. I think those skills were really honed during the pandemic, was dealing with more anxiety and grief than usual because of the fact that you couldn't go do what you love to do. So I think those things, are going to carry with me from the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic wasn't all bad, but I think we all, we got a little stir crazy after a while. And doing those, where I was, we did, COVID antigen testing every single Wednesday at 6 a.m. And I know some people did it even more than that. And it's just one of those things that it becomes a grind. So I think there's a whole lot of joy coming out of that, and just being able to you appreciate what you have more. So I think that's kind of the takeaway for me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Since this is the first time we've had a chance to have you publicly,
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like people to know about you or what you're trying to keep building on?
Yeah, no, I want to make sure that I'm when I come in here, I'm very clear that like I'm so proud of what's already been built.
Sure.
And I definitely want to progress that. And I think for me right now, because our team does not connect with me, my event group doesn't connect with me until Halloween. It's my job to hit the pavement, hit the phones, and to make sure that this team gets bigger and more talented. And you can't go wrong with that as a goal. We did, I think, on my interview even, I talked to the panel about it in the OAC. I called it an arms and legs race because it really is. And in the OAC and track and field, the teams with the biggest rosters almost across the board, the roster numbers meant that's where you were. That's where you finished in the OAC, except for I think Wilmington punched above their weight on the men's side or something like that. So knowing that, if you have that research in front of you, it's like, okay, how can I right now, I can't train my team, how can I make this program better? And it's to go collect talented student athletes, and I think that's what I'm really excited to do.
It's a thrill to meet you. It's a fun program to follow. We're really glad to have you and wish you all the best. We'll follow you along the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much, Coach Simpson, the new men's and women's track and field coach here, and overseeing some of the cross-country folks as well. Grateful for his time.